Alright, let's take a look at the current people running the United States. One thing you will notice is that there is old people after old people. From Nancy Pelosi to Donald Trump to even Bernie Sanders. Okay, for Bernie Sanders, let's not give him too much shot. Because this man over here, he is actually a breath of fresh air for the United States. So we're gonna put him to the side. But regardless of how you feel, one thing you will notice is that it is damn near a retirement place. The average age in Congress is 58 years old. For Senate, it's 65. At this point, you might as well just work 40 years in your corporate job or factory and shoot your shot for Congress or Senate, because you sure damn near have a shot for that position. Regardless of how you feel, one thing is worth noting. Do politicians need age limits? That is a question that many people have been asking on online spaces, and I'm here to give an answer to why politicians need age limit. So I'll give you two convincing reasons why politicians do need age limits. And we're gonna start off with the first one. They're simply not working for the common person. Whether or not they're bought by lobbying groups or they're working for their own self-interest, one thing that you might not know of, especially if you're looking at states where Democrats hold the majority of the power, is that they're simply not working for the common American. Let's be honest. Now, we're gonna take a deep dive in a state where Democrats hold the majority of the power, Illinois. One thing that you might not know of that state is that education is heavily, and I want to put an emphasis on heavily unequal. Even though Brown versus Board of Education removed systemic barriers and discrimination racially based on education, today it's simply not the case. There is a trend where education is heavily different based on your current economic condition. If you happen to live in a fairly well-off neighborhood, your quality of education is gonna be vastly different compared to someone living in a poorer one. Rich school boards get access to better teachers, more extracurricular activities, safer schools, etc., while poor ones, good luck. Now, why is that the case? Well, Milliken versus Bradley said that income in and of itself is not a means to say that we can segregate ourselves financially. So today, a lot of people from Illinois suffer from the consequence of that case decision. And Democrats have long stated that they're going to fix the issue, but more than 50 years have gone. We're still not seeing any signs of any potential solution. Now, the second point goes hand in hand with the first one. They're simply not delivering their promises. And we're gonna go to the West Coast, California. One thing that you might not know of, aside from the beautiful weather, the nice beaches, is that California is really expensive. Let's take a look at the housing cost. It eats up a lot of the people's budgets.
Median price of a home in San Diego County is now a staggering $830,000.
It eats up more than half of people's salary. For example, take a look at the rent in California. For a studio apartment, you can find one for $2,000 for a small apartment. That's insane. We all know that in California there is a shortage of houses, thus making real estate fairly high. But what if I told you, despite that fluff that the Democrats are talking about, there are actually solutions that the Democrats actually ignore. For example, in Palo Alto, in California, there was a project to turn that small plot of land into a multi-complex building. But you know what happened? The residents in Palo Alto started voicing their concerns, and then afterwards it was killed. And today it was turned into a single family complex, and it's currently selling for $5 million for anyone who is interested to buy. But why am I saying that? In California, we all know that everyone wants to come here. There has been 700,000 jobs that have been created in California, but only 200,000 homes that have been built in that same period. Why is that? Well, the Democrats have been tied up with lobbying groups. Residents do not want their property values to plummet, and they have sort of that mentality of NIMBY, not in my backyard. Thus, it's leading to Democrats choosing the status quo over the uncomfortable solution. In conclusion, those problems that Democrat states have been facing do not date back from yesterday. They date back from decades and decades of inaction. So this is why I vastly support age limits and term limits, because as it stands, Democrats are not necessarily doing their jobs correctly. They are maintaining the status quo. They're doing just enough work to justify that, okay, I have done something, but overall, America is still facing the same issues that they were facing 10, 20, 30 years ago. And obviously, many Americans, and myself included, know that age limit in and of itself and term limits as well is not obviously going to fix the issue. But it is a step closer towards a positive future. Now, that does not mean that Republicans are different. They are probably the same. Now, I would like to end today's video in saying that, what are your thoughts in the current situation? Do you think that politicians need age limits? Yes. If so, why? If not, why as well? With that being said, thank you for watching this video, and we will see you next time. Bye.